right, while people file into the room, I have my silly kickoff question, and it is October the 23rd, which means Halloween is right around the corner, and then the holidays. So, what is your? We'll start on my screen. We're going to go left to right, top to bottom. So, Alicia, you are number one. What's your favorite Halloween candy to get and to give away?
Reese's peanut butter cups, hands down, and Twizzlers, and I will not give away either of those. I will give away everything else other than those two. If I eat those two candies, I'm happy.
There we go. What about it, Kim?
I have to agree. Chocolate peanut butter, nothing better. Give and get. As
All
long as
right.
it all comes to me.
And Daniel.
I'm not gonna lie, it's a close second, but I'm a Kit Kat guy, from day one, both give and get. I love my Kit Kats.
I've got to go with the Snickers. Now, the other day, somebody said Butterfinger, and that's like one of those things. It's like I would never ever buy a Butterfinger. I would probably give it away more often than not. Alicia, you're spot on. But there's something about it. If it's in the bag, I will eat one just because you just don't see them very often. So, all right. Well, and then I'm assuming, are all three of you going to be at Connect next week?
Absolutely.
All right. All right, and I do have a really short poll question on that we're going to get to in just a second. But before we get into that, welcome to the October edition of QB Talks, exploring Intuit's new enterprise suite, a game changer for mid-market businesses. My name is Gary Dehart. I'm the publisher of Insightful Accountant and your host for today's event. Our presenter is Alicia Katz Pollock of Royal Wise, and our special guests are Daniel Malinov and Kim Amsbaugh, both from Intuit. But before I do turn this over to them, I do have a information I want to share and then a quick announcement. And the info I want to share, I'm going to go ahead and post a polling question for this, and it's around our Be Insightful premium content offering that we have. And basically, this is an Insightful Accountant product. We have 9 training tracks. You see them there in front of you. Murph does some app comparisons, some ERP looks. We've got Christine on tax. We've got Janelle in marketing, human resources by Michelle LeBlanc, and then Kelly Parks also with some technology, a couple of others in there as well. But so this is an ongoing educational webinars that we do, typically 3 a month. Sometimes we do 4, but roughly in a year, you'll get about 36 hours of CPE if you attended all of those. Plus other webinars that we produce also have CPE. So, I haven't launched it yet. Sorry, thought that was already done. So I'm just talking, but so there you go. If you want some more information on that program, just give us a quick yes. If you don't, we just say no and we won't bother you, or don't answer it. But if you do need the CPE, make sure you answer it. And I'll get to that in one more second as well. So I'll leave that open for a couple of more seconds because I do have another poll question that I want to throw up real quickly. And then we'll get into the housekeeping, and then we will move on. We're going to go ahead and close this out in about 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And then I'm going to post this other poll question, and it is about Intuit Connect, which I referenced just a second ago. Are you going? Just simple yes or no on that. While you do that, the housekeeping items, this is a CPE eligible webinar. You must be here for 50 minutes, 50 minutes. You must answer at least 3 of the polling questions. We already gave you 2, so make sure you get at least 1 more if you need that CPE. If you meet this criteria, we will send you your certificate within 24 hours, usually within a few hours. If you do have questions, we do ask you just to put them in the Q&A. Actually, Alicia is going to address that, so I'm going to skip that one. You will receive an email following this event that has a link to the archive of this recording, which will point you over to YouTube. I will also drop that link into the chat. I'll also drop a copy of today's presentation into the chat, and the email that you receive will also have a copy of the presentation to it as well. And with that, that is all that I have. Alicia, thank you so much. Kim and Daniel, thank you so much for being here. And I am going to go dark, and I will be running some polls. Other than that, we do appreciate it.
All right. Thank you so much, Gary. All right. Can everybody see my screen? I think we are good to go. All right. Cool. So welcome to October's QB Talks from Insightful Accountant. And our topic this week this month is Intuit Enterprise Suite, which is the new offering from Intuit, built on the bones of QuickBooks Online, but bringing whole new possibilities to the industry. So I wanted to bring it to everybody's attention. I do want to mention that we talked about this in the unofficial QuickBooks Accountants podcast. Hector and I broke down the original product announcements. There's been 3 of them by now. But if you go to uqb.show, episode 57 was also about this topic so that you could hear our unofficial opinions about the new offerings. This month, we are actually sponsored by RoyalWise. And one of the things I wanted to let people know is that I do have a new book out on Amazon that if you are migrating to Intuit Enterprise Suite, you're very likely coming over from desktop. And that does mean a whole new learning curve and a whole new set of things to learn. And so I do have a book on migrating and how to migrate your data. And so you can check that out on Amazon. All right, so a little bit about me, get that out of the way. My name is Alicia Katz Pollock, and I will be your tour guide for today. I am the founder of the RoyalWise Owls. Owls is an acronym standing for the on-demand web-based learning solutions. And what I do basically is QuickBooks Online and QuickBooks Desktop training. So we have a whole portal with over 50 different classes, from the very, very basics, I've never seen it before, all the way through complicated next level accounting and tricky situations. I just did a 3-hour class yesterday just on the Project Center. So as I mentioned, I'm the host of the unofficial QuickBooks Accountants podcast. I love doing QB Talks for Insightful Accountant. I'm a top 50 woman in accounting and a top 10 ProAdvisor as well. Now, I want to introduce our guests. So because Intuit Enterprise Suite is not something that I can demo, I was like, well, why should I be the only one to talk about it? Why don't I bring up the people who are actually responsible for the product? That way they can answer the questions and give the demos that I can't. So Daniel, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. So as you can tell, I'm a CPA myself. I started my career in accounting. I did a stint my own company, so I'm an entrepreneur as well. That's where I got my first taste of product. And then since then, I've been in product one way or another. It's been over a decade now, and I've been with Intuit for on my 4th year now. I started launching QuickBooks Online Advanced internationally. And then now my big focus is on the Enterprise Suite and making sure that we build it the right way for accountants first and foremost. And so excited to be here with you guys.
Thank you so much for coming. And I also have with me Kim Amsbaugh. So Kim is going to be monitoring the chat and the Q&A. So Kim, why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Kim Amsbaugh. I'm part of the corporate communications team at Intuit. I've been there for 15 years. Among the many jobs that I have, one of the primary jobs is to focus on our accounting professionals across our platform. So my job here today is to support in the answering of questions.
Thank you very much. And so along those lines, for those of you who are on the call today, you know that Zoom has a chat and a Q&A. If you have questions that you would like us to build into the conversation, please put them in the Q&A pane. And if you just want to kind of talk amongst yourselves and give your opinions about things, please do those in the chat. And Kim's going to keep an eye on both. And as we can build in your questions, we will look forward to doing that. So what we're going to do today is talk about Intuit Enterprise Suite, which is a QuickBooks Online based product. So we're not talking about desktop enterprise. We are talking about online enterprise. So we're first going to start talking about the strategy for why they decided to bring it to market. Then we're going to show off some of the features which distinguishes it from the software that you know and love. And then we're going to talk about how you can get started and make recommendations for your clients. So we're going to actually start with a poll. Gary, can you pop a poll into place for us? And so the first thing is, how familiar are you with Intuit Enterprise Suite? Go ahead and let us know if you are familiar with it, if this is brand new information to you, or if you know a little bit about it, but not much yet. And it's really just had its product announcement, and there's been a couple trainings. It's been in the know, and there was a training about it on October 16th, but this is brand new, a brand new offering from Intuit. So go ahead and answer that. And Gary, if you can share the responses so that we can see it. As the
Okay, we'll
panelists.
go ahead and close this down in about 3, 2, and 1. Here we go.
Okay, so a few of you are very familiar. Some of you are somewhat familiar. Most of you have heard about it, but don't know what it is. And for some of you, this is brand new. So you are in the right place. We're going to knock your socks off today. So the first thing that I want to do is kind of set the stage for why there is a brand new version of online. And it's a little tricky to discuss because they're separating it from QuickBooks Online. It's not really a version of QuickBooks Online, but it's still honestly just based on QuickBooks Online. So I'm going to use it, frame it in there. But basically what they realized is that for mid-market companies, over $3 million in revenue with hundreds of employees, QuickBooks Online, even advanced, was not sufficient enough to meet their needs. They needed multi-entity companies where, you've got several related companies that are financially integrated, or there's not enough reporting. There's classes just aren't sufficient. And that people are asking for more tools around construction and around nonprofits. And so what they did is they decided to level up QuickBooks Online beyond advanced up with tools that address these needs for more complicated companies. Daniel, do you have anything to add to that?
No, that's good summarization.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Feel free to just jump in whenever you do have something to add. Okay. Now, one of the questions is about the name, Intuit Enterprise Suite. So first of all, you'll notice that it's Intuit Enterprise, not QuickBooks Enterprise, and that it does still have the word enterprise in it, but it's completely unrelated to desktop enterprise. So basically the way that I think about it is that it's based on QuickBooks Online, but it has a lot more. They consider it an integrated business platform, pulling in different pieces of the Intuit universe. And one of the things that I learned through the conversations is that when I think of QuickBooks, I think of, oh, you can use bill pay and it has payroll and it has payments and that it's all part of QuickBooks. But the truth is that really they're separate modules that are kind of standalone. You turn them on and off. You choose to use them and you choose to add them into your platform. So when Intuit is thinking about it, they're thinking about it in terms of QuickBooks Online being its central core, and then there's all of these add-ons. Us from users, we think it's all one big thing, but apparently it's not. So when Intuit is kind of thinking about it, they're thinking about it more encompassing as a suite of products: payroll, HR, payments, bill pay, MailChimp, and then also some third-party integrations that we're going to talk about later on. So when they talk about Intuit Enterprise Suite, even the initials IES, that's not even where they're going with it. They want you to think about it as the suite. And so this is the suite of services. And, it's pretty sweet. So let's take a look at some of the things that it does. When you sign up for it, initially, like kind of the base package has two entities. And I know I'm getting a little ahead of myself because I'm telling you what's in it and we haven't talked about what these things are, but I will be talking about what each of these things mean. But it basically has a core package of two entities, which are a parent company and a child company, 5 users, 4 dimensions, bill pay elite, QuickBooks payments with the discounted rates, and a support manager. So that's kind of the core product. But then you can add on payroll and QuickBooks Time and MailChimp Premium, and they'll help you with the implementation and integration. So it's not even something that we as ProAdvisors do. The migration from desktop, if you are migrating from desktop, is going to be taken care of by Intuit. You as a ProAdvisor can certainly participate with the process, but the migration is part of the package. There's customized training, there's reporting, and then if you want more than the 2 companies, you can have up to 100 entities, and you can have up to 20 dimensions, and you can have more users and more user types. So think of it as there's the base of the suite, and then there's all the add-ons.
And I should also add, and you mentioned it comes with 2 entities. So it's not necessarily only multi-entity. There are also really great use cases for single entity, and that has its own pricing structure as well. And I guess the other thing you mentioned earlier that, it's into Enterprise Suite. It's not the same product as QuickBooks Online. The way we like to think about it is it's powered by QuickBooks Online, meaning the simplicity, the ease of use, all of that we keep that, even though you will see a different layout. It does work differently, but you're not going to have those major learning curves that you may otherwise have if you go to an ERP or some other product. And then the great part is there is no migration really. Although you can't self-serve an upgrade, it really does function like an upgrade where once you've signed the contract, you're on the package, you log back in the way you normally would, and you're in the new experience, right? So there is no migration involved.
Okay. And so you're saying that you can be in advance and decide to turn it into the suite, or you can come over from desktop. Is that correct?
Right. The migration from desktop is similar to the migration to online, right? And then if you are on Plus Essentials, let's say you've got a group of companies that are on different SKUs or different plans within our QuickBooks Online platform, you would literally log back in, and you now be all those companies will be within the suite interface.
Got it. Okay, excellent. Okay, there are some limitations right now, but these are all on the roadmap to be addressed. So right now it is just US-based companies, so no Canada, no international yet. There's multi-currency, but there's no multi-currency consolidated reporting yet. Right now, the manufacturing tools are being built out. We know that they've been working on that for a couple of years throughout the whole enterprise ecosystem. And right now, the parent-child relationship between your entities, that's only one deep, but they're going to be making it so you can have a deeper hierarchy. Is that correct, Daniel?
Yeah. So if you think of parent-child, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and so on.
Great. Excellent. All right, so let's take a look at what is new and cool. What are some of the things that the suite brings that are not in QuickBooks Online Simple Start through Advanced? So the first one is native multi-entity, that you have a parent company and you can have up to 100 sub-companies. So again, this is when you have financial company or businesses that are interrelated, like one owner has several different companies and there's due to froms between those companies, or maybe you have a real estate holding company and then you have the LLCs for each of the properties. It's that kind of comprehensive business environment. And what this allows you to do is create journal entries or create transactions that can address all the different companies all in one transaction. So right now, for example, a journal entry, you can specify, well, this journal entry has to assign some of the money to this company and that company and that company, and then that journal entry will do the splitting for you. And you can then see the consolidated reports with all of the entities by using Spreadsheet Sync. And it even recognizes eliminations, which is when you have two companies where the same money is related to both, then it will recognize those, or you can specify those. Now, instead of me talking about it, let me bring up Daniel, and he is actually going to demonstrate what one of those journal entries looks like.
All right, give me a second to pull my company up here. Okay. All right, so I am now logged in to the Intuit Enterprise Suite. You will notice that the left navigation does look a bit different, right? The design has changed, but at the bottom here, you will see powered by QuickBooks. And so now we are actually going to jump into multi-entity journal entries, right? So there's this new option here on the left navigation called multi-entity. Once you're here, there's a few options. We're going to focus on the journal entry currently, but if you wanted to see your organization org structure, parent and children, you can see that here. Select which accounts you want to be eliminated on the consolidations. You'd click here, but we are going to look at the journal entry right now. So I'm going to click add. Now, this will be a familiar view. It is a regular journal entry view, but now we have this toggle on for intercompany transactions. And what really differences here, you have a new column called company. Under company, you see all the different entities that are part of this group, right? And so in this case, I've got 8 different entities, and I have them all available in this one journal entry. So the 2 use cases that I see probably the most common here are, let's say you've got your parent company, who in this case is construction, that may be charging a management fee to some of the subsidiaries, right? And so in this case, let's say you're charging a management fee. Let's do a receivable as well. So do from, let's call to Volt. And so let's say our management fee is going to be $2,000, and we now have a receivable from Volt for $1,000, and then we do the same thing for the other 2 companies, and then we post it. So now instead of having to make the posting on parent company and then switch companies to the children and post their side of the transaction, you can do it all within one journal entry. And then the other example I like to call out is when you're doing allocations, right? So let's say the parent company gets charged for insurance on behalf of the group of companies. Instead of having to post it on the parent company and then reverse portion of it and then post the portion of the subsidiaries in each one of their individual books, you can do it all through one journal entry, right? And so if that was the case, we would, let's say, back out the insurance expense. And so we back it out, let's say it was $2,000, and then we would have a receivable from the child company, and we'd post that there, and then you do the child company side of it. So now Volt, and then we post a debit to the insurance expense and so on. So you're able to do your allocations from that journal entry rather than having to go into each company and post their side of the transaction, essentially. Now, right now, we only have the intercompany journal entry live, but we are working on bringing a similar experience directly to the transaction forms. So if you think about like a bill form, you'll be able to allocate directly from the bill form rather than having to post the bill and then do the intercompany journal entry as a second step. So it'll streamline it, and then you'll be able to do the allocations either by amount or by percentage. And eventually, also, we want to bring templates so you don't have to do the custom allocation every time manually. So I'll pause there.
All right. Excellent. I am really looking forward to this in particular. I'm working with a company right now where they didn't, when they made the one side of the due to from, they didn't go and make the other side of the due to from at the time, and they just like saw it in the banking feed. And so I'm actually working with a company right now where I have to go through transaction by transaction, match all of those due to froms.
Right.
So this is going to be a game changer for them, that they can make the transaction one time and recognize where it goes in each company and not have to repeat themselves over and over again.
Yeah, that's a great use case.
Okay. All right. Anything else you'd like to add on that demo, or should we go on to the next thing?
There's a lot I can add. I can talk about this all day, but in the interest of covering everything else we have, we can call it there.
Okay. Excellent. Good. All right. Come back to mine. All right. So now with multi-entity, some of the things that are on the roadmap is that you are going to be able to make a chart of accounts and push it out to all the entities. You will be able to make the dimensions and push it out to all the entities. There will be multi-entity dashboards. And as Daniel said, in addition to the journal entries, you will be able to do your allocations across the bank feed, bills, and expenses. And instead of using spreadsheet sync to do the consolidated reporting, eventually it's going to be right inside the suite as well. Okay. Now, one of the other things that it brings to the table is a deep feature set specifically for construction. And as most of the people listening to this know, projects has brought a lot to the table inside QuickBooks Online, but a lot of major construction still really has to happen in Enterprise Desktop because of the feature set that's there. And Enterprise Suite is actually solving some of that and bringing some of the features into the QuickBooks Online environment. So the first one is change orders. That there just hasn't been change orders. We've had to just make additional estimates. And so now you can take an estimate and make a change order specific that's its own transaction and link it back to the original estimate. So for some of you, that's huge. I can hear some of you going, oh my God, finally. Yes, you totally got it. Another thing is that there'll be a project manager role in the user settings so that you can have an employee who is focused on the project center but doesn't have access to other features. There is a native integration with Notify and with BigTime, where if you're doing your work in Notify, it will have a bidirectional sync with Enterprise Suite. And the home dashboard is going to have project progress and cost KPI widgets. So, since we only have an hour, unfortunately, we can't demo all of this stuff. But is there videos, Kim or Daniel, about where people can go to see some of this in action, like the one that you did on the 16th?
I'm pretty sure I covered all of this on the one on the 16th as well. But I think we will have more kind of collateral and materials out showing some of this. And also, if we have time at the end, I'm also happy to do it in real time.
Okay, excellent. Okay. Now, one of the things that's super exciting, one of the big limitations to doing construction in QuickBooks Online is that it just didn't have the reporting capability and, for instance, WIP capability. So if you have works in progress, you had to kind of do it manually, whereas in desktop, it was a lot easier. And so these are, look at this list of reports. And I know I'm like slamming you with a wall of text, but those of you who are in construction are going to look down this list and go, oh, whoa, there it is, finally. And now have the reports that were holding you back from going over to QuickBooks Online. So a lot of this, you'll have cost to complete reports, change order reports, P&L by project, cost details, project status, all kinds of new reports. So if you have been in desktop because you were limited on the reports, this is now your opportunity. Okay, some of the things that aren't there yet, but are coming soon on the roadmap, cost codes for construction, project-based budgets, automated cost allocations, an enhanced hourly cost rate calculator, tailored workflows, and a tailored chart of accounts. So basically a chart of accounts specific for construction and workflows specific for construction. Okay. Hey, Gary, it's your turn. Let's get a poll. Okay. Which of the following features of Intuit Enterprise Suite do you find most valuable for mid-market businesses? So go ahead and take a moment and answer that. I'm actually going to turn over to the questions. A lot of the questions that are coming in are about pricing. We are going to discuss pricing. So you can hold on that. We will get there. Okay, I'll give you a minute to answer that poll. And Gary, when you're ready, you can go ahead and give the poll
We'll go ahead and
results.
count that down in 5, 4. If you need the CPE, go ahead and participate. 3, 2, and 1.
Okay, so the multi-entity management with consolidated reporting is the most popular. The construction management and reporting, second most popular. Multi-dimensional reporting, which is my big geek out right there that I'm excited about. And then integration with MailChimp. All right, thank you very much. And let's keep going. So the next one is dimensions, and dimensions function pretty much exactly like classes like you're used to. But if you have ever felt yourself hamstrung because you wanted to use classes for more than one thing, but you only had one class per line, now you have the ability to multi-class. And so it comes with 4 of them built in, but you can have up to 20. And they do go 5 deep in the hierarchy, just like classes do. You can use the reclassify tool, not just to change them, but you can actually go back and use reclassify to update your entire history so that you have apples to apples when you're doing your reporting with things before you were in the suite. You can use them in the P&L and in custom reports. So you can use the dimensions by as columns, for example. Even as pivot tables, you can set the dimensions against each other and use them in budgeting. So, Daniel, I'm going to hand it over to you to go ahead and show us what dimensions are.
Sounds good. Let me share my screen. Okay, we start off where we left off. And so I'm going to throw in one more little demo here. So I'm logged in directly into the company here, right? I'm not logged in through QuickBooks Online Accountant, which you can tell I don't have the accountant tools button here, but yet I still have my dropdown. And so that's one thing we're also bringing to the suite is the company switching tool, which you folks are familiar if you're accessing clients through QuickBooks Online Accountant. And I'm actually just going to use it to jump to one of my subsidiaries, which is in this case, let's say my operating company that has more data than the parent company, which will help with the purposes of dimensional demo. The first thing I do want to show is where you find them. So now you click on the gear icon and you'll notice dimensions is its own option here. And I do want to call out, Alicia, you mentioned that they come with 4 dimensions off the bat. I do want to slight caveat to that. So it's not just 4, it's actually 5 dimensions. However, one of the dimensions which you'll see here is taken up by the classes which you have on, if you're upgrading, or let's say you're coming from QuickBooks Online Advanced or Plus for that matter, and you have classes and you upgrade into the suite, you will have that class come with you and it will take up one of the slots of the 5 dimensions. But let's say you're not upgrading to a new company, then you will have the ability to create 5 user-defined dimensions off the bat, and then you can purchase incremental dimensions beyond that up to 20, which we will also increase as we proceed and innovate on the roadmap. In this case, you can see I've got 1 class and I've got my 4 user-defined dimensions. So I create these myself: customer type, earthwork, utilities, and concrete. They're all here. And let's say I want to use them in a transaction. Let's say I want to open up an expense. It will show up here on the actual line items, right? So as we know, locations in the past was at the header level. You couldn't assign it to the line items. So you really just stuck with 1 line item classification. Now, in this case, I've got 5. I've got class, customer type, and so on. And then, you click the drop down, you select what it is, and you save, and that gets captured in our database. So that's just an example of how to enter it. And then let's take a look at the actual report or what that looks like on the back end. And really, dimensions are all in service of reporting ultimately. And so let's see, let's run our P&L by dimension. And so you start off with your basic P&L, no dimension. You then go on display, and then you can display by all these various dimensions. In this case, let's go customer type. So you can kind of immediately see the commercial, government, residential, and then non-specified. So if you don't select something, it will land here. And now you know that, okay, I need to go and actually allocate this sale of 3118, which you can go with that invoice, or as Alicia mentioned, you can go into the reclass tool. Now, this is just your basic P&L, but as you saw on Alicia's slide as well, it is available on the regular custom report builder, right? So any of the reports that are on our modern experience, if they have this new enhanced experience label on it, you're able to open it and actually also filter and use dimensions in those reports, as well as just create your own custom report. And in my case, I've created one called Dimensional Pivot, where I went ahead and I pivoted, in this case, customer type, and we can actually see customer type, and I actually forget which dimension this is. Let's see. Let's turn the pivot off. Okay, there, sorry, utilities, right? So I can see customer type across utilities, and obviously my utilities aren't as allocated as well as my customer type is, so I do have a bunch of not specified. But if I did a great job in cleaning it up, everything would be in its right cell, and then you have a nice pivot across 2 dimensions. And we are also looking to enhance this experience to be able to incorporate multiple dimensions and additional hierarchies. So that should be exciting in the near future. I'll pause there. Anything else, Alicia, you want me to cover?
No, that's absolutely perfect.
Cool.
Okay, cool. And I myself, this is the thing that for me, I'm most excited about, because in my company, I slice and dice my numbers in a lot of different ways. That we have our QuickBooks training, but we also have an extensive Apple training, Microsoft Office training, and business training content. And we also do, live trainings and classes and subscriptions and publishing. And right now we have been using tags for some of it and classes for some of it and redundant chart of accounts for some of it. And so I'm hoping I get to use dimensions, because being able to do this kind of pivot table where I can say QuickBooks and Apple versus our publishing and our classes and our memberships would be a game changer on my reporting. So I'm very
love to hear that.
Yeah. All right. All right. So continuing onward. So dimensions, classes on steroids. Did that part. Okay. And so some things that are going to be added to dimensions as they start building this out, you are going to be able to assign your dimensions right from the banking feed. You will be able to do them cross entity, and you will be able to use the dimensions in the forecasting tools. Okay, next up are the user permissions. So with the user permissions in particular, if you are multi-entity, you're going to be able to define your user permissions one time and then just send it out across all of the entities. So you don't have to go to each entity and set up the same permissions, the same custom permissions in each of the files. You can just go ahead, apply it to all of them, and then, you'll go in and assign them to the individual employees, but it's going to save all of that redundant work. And as I mentioned, there is also a new project manager rule. In the same way, the workflows, I don't know how many of you have started playing with the workflows that came out in QBO Advanced, but they are pretty powerful. The ability to assign certain activities and tasks to different employees based on what happens. Like if you make a bill, then it has to go for approval. And if it's under $500, it goes to this person. If it's over $500, it goes to this person. And if it's for this particular product, it goes over to that person. So rules and workflows can get fairly complicated. And so the good news is that you're going to be able to build one workflow in one of the entities and then copy and duplicate that workflow across to all of them. Then you just have to go in and edit and change the who for each of them. Or, maybe you have to edit the standards a little bit, but if you have 50 entities, you're not going to have to build the workflow 50 times. Okay. Anything you want to add to that, Daniel?
No, I think that's great. And maybe one thing is we have this visual builder for a lot of our workflows, including the approval workflows. That makes it's very nifty. It lets you craft your workflow on a very custom basis, and you see kind of the different branches, if you will, on that experience, which just makes it easier to visualize. Who needs to approve it based on web conditions. And that can get pretty complex, right? It can get very sophisticated depending on the level of conditioning you have. And having to rebuild that every time for every entity is going to be time consuming. And then let's say something changes or somebody leaves the organization, then you have to go in and kind of change it. So in this case, you're able to build it once and publish it, and then it'll be available to all the relevant entities to then take and activate, and then customize who they want to be the approver at various stages. So it's powerful. And then I guess the other thing is for project, we do have 4 new project workflows that are linked directly to specific projects. So if you want to invoice at a certain progress level, you'll be able to set that up. So you get a notification saying, hey, this project has hit that threshold of 30%, time to send the invoice, which means now you're going to be able to stay on top of your invoices, send them out sooner, get paid sooner, improve cash flow. So yeah, very excited on our workflow innovation and a lot more to come.
All right. Excellent. Good. All right. The next one is profitability monitoring. There's going to be some AI in there that is taking a look for, let's say you have a budget and you have predicted where this project's supposed to be at certain milestones, and then all of a sudden it goes off track. there's going to be some AI in there that's going to do root cause analysis and make recommendations. So for example, if you have an expense that comes in that was unexpected, too big, too soon, anything like that, it will notice those unusual events and alert you so that you don't miss your targets. And in the same way, when that pops up, you're going to be able to assign those tasks to somebody to actually go through and follow up, not just like, hey, we noticed this, but turning it into an action item. Okay. Daniel, did I do good?
Yeah, Ben, it's great. It's AI-powered root cause analysis with recommendations and also providing support reports. So if you don't want to take our word for it, you can click on the report, see the underlying data, do a deep dive, and maybe take another action. But hopefully over time, you get confident with what we present, and then it'll help save you time from having to review all your reports on a regular basis, which should still do, at some regularity. But this way, it kind of gets ahead of it. So it just tells you where we're finding anomalies that you probably want to address sooner than later, again, to improve your cash flow, ultimately.
Okay. Excellent. Okay. Now, while we're talking about tasks, the next innovation is task management right inside the projects. Now, I don't know if all of you have used the task tools, but when you're in your QBOA, there's a work center where you can create projects, different use of the word project, but a project with subtasks that you and your team can use to manage your clients. And when you're using QuickBooks Online Advanced, there's also a task center in there where you can assign tasks to different employees. And you just have to get everybody in the habit of going and looking at their tasks so that they can see what it is that they're supposed to be doing. The suite is going to add in a tasks tab right inside the project. So when you have project related tasks, they're all right there and transparent. Good with that one? Okay. All right. So the next thing is FP&A, financial planning and analysis. And so there are tools that we've already seen come out in QBO Advanced that do a lot of forecasting and have more powerful budgets. So there's going to be forecasting. Now with the budgets, you're going to be able to add notes, add budget tasks and approvals. And Daniel's actually going to demo that in a minute. So I'm just going to go to the next thing. You can get in granular permissions, and there's going to be forecasting by dimension, a 12-month cash flow forecast, and goal management with root cause analysis. So that same thing that we were looking at with just project budgets and expenses, if you create a goal forecast, which is a brand new concept, you forecast out what you want to achieve with those benchmarks, and it will monitor whether you are reaching those benchmarks or not.
Yeah, it's a great way of putting it, like benchmarking, and then our forecast model will track against that benchmark and let you know like how far off you are, and then also provide recommended actions to get you closer to some of those goals you set. Similar to the way the projects one works, so projects is our first foray in that area. We will be bringing that to overall for the entire entity, and eventually across all entities. Okay, I will share my screen again.
So what we wanted to show you here is the new tools available in the budgeting, that the budgeting now has collaboration. So you're going to be able to put notes in and talk to people in your budgets. So here's okay.
Well, before the budgeting, one other thing to call out here is the forecast. So with Advanced, you're able to create your own forecast using custom percentage growth rates based on custom baselines, right? Whether it's the last 3 months, whether it's the average over the last year or so, or whatever it might be. You can do that within like P&L groups. With the suite, we actually have a AI powered forecast that looks back 5 years and then projects forward 2 years. So you can see here, I've got this forecast, and then you can see the projected amounts in the dotted line going across, and they will go forward 2 years. You can click View Detailed Forecast to see what that looks like at a line item level across that 2-year period. And then, of course, you can take that and convert that to a budget to be your kind of baseline. But we're going to show you how you create a budget from scratch and do it by dimension right now. So I create a budget. and I'm going to make it P&L. I'm going to make it subdivided. And in this case, let's say I want it to be by customer type. And let's say I want it to be for commercial specifically, or maybe I'll create one for all of my different options there. I'm not going to pre-fill it with anything. Let's just say we're doing it from scratch. We go next. And so it starts me off with commercial, but you'll notice now I've got some options here on the right. So let's say maybe I do it quarterly, and then let's say I want to annotate. So I'm going to turn on my notes, and then let's say here I'm going to throw in a note. Oops, let's get back there. Expect additional sale XYZ. And so let's say I throw in a number here, and I want folks that are reviewing this to see why I have a certain value in a certain cell, right? And so that saves them from having to ping me and ask me and so on. So you'll be able to annotate all different cells within your budget. And then let's say I also want to assign a task. So maybe I've created my first cut, or maybe the line items I'm responsible for. I can then assign a task to, let's say, the business unit head, or let's say one of the business unit heads, or maybe the director of sales to go in and oops, what is this? Let's try that again. All right, the demo gods are not looking kindly on me right now, but in theory, it should launch a task manager assigner on the right panel here, and then you'd be able to select individuals from your user list and assign the task, and it will link directly to the budget. And so when they get that task, they open it, it'll take them to the budget, and then they can fill out their portion of the specific budget. So depending on what chart of accounts they are responsible for. I'm not sure why it's not working. It should be working, but I am in a demo account, as you can see here, and sometimes our demo environments are not super friendly. So you can take my word for it, or watch one of the videos from the training a couple of weeks ago where it did work in the demo environment.
Sure. That's one of the problems with live demos, that I call it live without a net, because I can't count the number of times that what I'm demoing was supposed to work and worked when I was practicing.
Yeah.
So
and I guess the last thing I'll call out is we have submit for approval, right? So let's say I want to save this. I can submit it for approval, and then I can set up a again, fairly sophisticated approval workflow that goes through various folks. So maybe I want my business unit heads to approve it, then I want my finance manager to approve it, and so on. That will be all available here through our approval workflow. And so I think my connectivity that's why it wasn't working. I lost connectivity to my demo environment. So I'm just going to reconnect, and I'll let you, Alicia, talk while I do that.
okay, excellent. I'm sorry that's happening to you. I know the feeling. Okay, so now let's talk about how this affects the ProAdvisors. So the first thing is, how do you sign up for this? So I've seen all the questions going by about the pricing. So the pricing is kind of menu driven, where they can't announce the pricing because it's complicated. It depends on how many entities you have, how many users you have, which modules you're putting in, how many dimensions do you want. And so it's kind of like they have this menu that their sales team will look through and find all the things that you need for where your company is at, and then come up with a price. I would expect down the line, eventually you're going to be able to have a menu of prices so that we can at least get a rough idea of it. Or once there are a substantial number of companies on there, we're going to be able to have some kind of standardized place to go. And so right now it's just kind of an unknown, because none of us have clients on it yet. So we don't know what that pricing is. So I'm going to kind of put that in the to be announced column. Is that accurate, Kim and Daniel?
I mean, yes, somewhat, but I think if you are interested and you think you have clients that may be a good fit, you can reach out to an account manager and give them the details of that client, and then they'll give you the pricing, right? They'll say, okay, well, you have this many entities, you want this many dimensions, you want these additional offerings in there, and then it'll give you like a nice breakdown of the pricing and the contract. And there's also other built-in savings there. So when you do bundle in like payroll or or payments or MailChimp, you'll see certain savings, right? You'll get preferred rates and other discounts. So it really depends on what is needed for that unique client. So the way you get that is to reach out to an account manager, which I believe, Kim, we're going to provide a link to learn more, and then there will be a way to get in touch with them through that path.
Okay. Yeah. Now, for now, the way that you can initiate this conversation is there's 3 different ways that we as ProAdvisors can reach out to the sales team so that we can have those meetings. One is when you're in your QBOA under Add Client. If you want to explore the suite, then you have that option. You can also get there from the subscriptions and billing page. And you can also go when you look at the accountant's briefcase in your QBOA and you drop that down, there's an option there as well to fill in the sales form and reach out to sales. And then that way, if you're the ProAdvisor, you can either lead the conversation or be part of the conversation, or maybe in some cases you're just going to let the client have the conversation, but you're going to be able to, you're not handing off the client, you're initiating this sales call where you and the client and Intuit are going to take a look at all the possibilities and what's the best fit in services, and then find out what that price is going to be for that client.
And I'll also say that if you do have clients on it, they will show up within QBO accountant in your client list, but there will be an additional tab that it's called multi-entity. And so in the multi-entity tab, you'll see the hierarchy. So it'll be easier to identify those clients. And then when you do log into one of those clients, you would do it the same way through QBOA, right? So there'll be in that drop-down, the company switcher at the top. And then when you're in, you will still see the new navigation, but the accountant tools will still be there at the top next to the company switcher. So you will still maintain all the accountant QBOA exclusive functionality within the enterprise suite.
Okay, excellent. All right, now there's an incentive for ProAdvisors as well, that you are entitled, if you make a referral for one of your clients to either upgrade to or migrate to Enterprise Suite, then you get a $1,500 spiff. Now, you have to have registered the client yourself, not just be an attached accountant. You have to be the person who initiates the contact. There's also the revenue share program, and I don't know if all of you have signed up for the revenue share yet, but it's under your gear, under subscriptions and billing. And the revenue share is an opportunity that you can make referrals for your clients for any of the different products in the whole Intuit universe. And then they get the preferred pricing, like payments. You get discounted rates when you make the recommendation for QuickBooks payments. And so if you are, or when you're signing somebody up for QBO new, that revenue share program is what allows you to get a percentage of the customer's fees for their subscriptions, whether you're doing it on your own billing or you're direct billing to the client. If you do it through the revenue share program, I'm not sure what the percentages are, like 30% is coming to mind, but I don't know if that's accurate. But basically for the first year, you get that revenue share. So all of you should now, today, go into your QBOA and go up to the gear, go to subscriptions and billing, and sign up for the revenue share program, whether or not you're doing Enterprise Suite. It just has all of that other benefit every time you bring on a new client. And then the way that it works is once your client has signed their contract and made their first payment on that contract, then the first of the month after that, you will get your $1,500. Okay. Anything I didn't get right? All right. So let's do another poll, and then we're going to use, we'll have about 3 to 5 minutes to answer some questions. And I ideally would like to find questions from the Q&A that we have not addressed yet. So Daniel, if you want to start skimming that and figure out what we didn't talk about, that would be the best use of our time. There's probably some questions that came in before we answered them, so let's skip those and just focus on things that we haven't talked about yet. Okay, so will you recommend Intuit Enterprise Suite to your mid-market clients? And so Gary will leave that up and then we'll take a look at the answer. I know that I have one client in mind already. Some of you have heard the story that I did this major migration from Enterprise, Desktop Enterprise in the beginning of the year, where it wasn't just a migration. We decided to change the financial structure on the entire company. So we broke everything down and rebuilt it. And I think they are an ideal client for this. So I'm excited to show them that they can get even more enhanced reporting. Okay, so the answers to the polls. 25% of you are saying yes, you will recommend Intuit Enterprise Suite. 2/3 of you say not yet, I need more information. And 8% say no, I will not offer this solution. I'd be curious of that 8%. Is that because you don't work with mid-market clients? Or is that because you have a barrier to entry on it? So I'm kind of curious about that myself. Okay, and Daniel, I'm going to go ahead and stop the screen share. Let's go head over to the Q&A, or Kim, if you have questions that you've seen pop up that you would like to address. So I actually want to start with one of the things that I'm seeing a lot is how can we recommend this before knowing the pricing? And at this point, because this is brand new, all we can do is have the conversations, call up Intuit, schedule the sales call, explore what it is that the client needs, both in the where are they now and where are they going, and find out what that pricing is. It can never hurt to have a phone call, because if this solves some of your data problems or multi-company management problems, then it's a no-brainer.
And I think this also ties into another question about, because you're calling in, right? But you're calling on behalf of the client, right? Not yourselves per se. And another question I saw earlier was, is there a way for ProAdvisors to sell like kind of a wholesale, right? The way we have on our other plans. So right now that isn't available. So you aren't able to do a wholesale type of structure. It's right now directly with the contract would be directly with the client of yours. Having said that, and look, I don't know if this is kosher, but like I do know there are some firms that will purchase on behalf of their clients, right? Now there isn't a wholesale discount on that, at least not right now, but they have purchased it on behalf of their clients. And so our contracts with the firm, but they set it up and load it with their client data, right? And they'll have, like for example, like family offices or something, right? They'll have a bunch of different groups of their clients, and yet the firm is paying for it. So that may be an option, but again, to get that pricing and get more details on kind of the structure, you would need to talk to a account manager, and then they would give you all those details about the pricing and the different packaging options and so forth.
Just
Okay.
real quick, Daniel, sorry, and Alicia, there were a couple questions or a few questions around sales orders that
Yeah.
I wasn't able to answer.
Sure. So sales orders, that's not a exclusive feature to the suite. Sales orders are now being rolled out. Now, I don't know exactly which SKUs. There probably is some limitations, but I do know they will be available for Advanced, probably Plus, and potentially Down SKU as well. But that is a bit outside of my area of expertise. But I think manual sales orders are now live.
Mhm.
And I think we are going to continue to innovate on the sales orders. And Alicia, you may actually know more about this than me.
Yeah, I know that they're in the process of being rolled out, and I've seen sales orders as a placeholder in a lot of files so far. So I'm pretty sure, I know that's Advanced. I'm pretty sure it's in Plus as well. But sales orders are also part of the manufacturing suite that's being rolled out with all of the enhancements to products and services. And the enterprise suite, that's one of the next things to be rolled out, is the manufacturing, but Intuit is really still just as a company working on that on the back end. So,
That's right.
I would not expect to see any major changes in manufacturing for another year down the line. I'm just making that number up. That's not authoritative, but it is definitely on the roadmap. We are almost at time. One of the huge questions is, how can we get our hands on it to play with it so that we can learn it? Is there going to be a test file?
Yeah, so we get this all the time, and right now that is not available, and it's also not in the QuickBooks Online Accountant My Books, right? That's still on advanced, and there are no plans to turn that into the suite, at least not in short term. And we don't have a test drive for the suite. It is far too complex for something like a test drive, the way we have for Advanced and Plus. And even with Advanced, there's a lot of gaps versus the real product. We do have a solution that we are working on, but it is somewhat limited release. We aren't able to scale that across every ProAdvisor. But if there is interest in getting early access or getting access to a kind of a test version of it, I would say you would probably want to talk to the account manager who you end up communicating with about a potential contract, and they'd be able to assess and figure out if they'll be able to get you on a free version of it to play with.
Now, when Daniel just said account manager, you know how you've all been getting some of those sales calls and you're like, why are they calling me with the sales call? That was your account manager. So you do want to actually respond to those. If somebody doesn't have an account manager.
I don't know that side of the house. I don't think you do.
Okay.
No, I don't know the specifics on what defines an account man having one or not.
Okay.
I cannot answer that.
All right, so I'm going to kind of summarize this up with it's a known issue. They know that we can't make recommendations until we have an opportunity to get to experience it ourselves. And so once they figure out that complication and complexity of it, I'm sure there's going to be some way for us to get our little hands on it and start playing with it. Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you both very much for your time. In closing, I want to just, since this episode is sponsored by RoyalWise, I want to let people know that I am teaching a major class starting in November, from November 4th to December 30th. That is actually my college textbook, where we're going to go through the book step by step and actually build QBO files. 32 CPE, 16 sessions, college style class. Never taught anything like this. I don't know that anybody's ever taught anything like this outside of an academic environment. So please come visit RoyalWise, and if you're interested in that class, sign up, because we are getting down to the wire on that. We're actually going to send you the textbook in the mail. So thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you so much, Daniel and Kim, for coming and answering some of the questions behind the scenes. I hope for those of you who didn't even know this was happening, that this has been eye-opening for you. For those of you who knew it was happening but weren't sure, hopefully some of the demo and some of the descriptions are going to help you find the right fit for your clients, those who have been growing out of QBO Advanced, or if you have been working with higher level clients who are not on QuickBooks, or you've got people on desktop who you've wanted to move over but have not been able to. Hopefully it solves some of those pain points for you.
Yeah, pleasure to be here.
Yeah, awesome. So thank you, everybody. This is Alicia, and I will see you in the next class.